Hello all. Hi, welcome to another episode of Hidden Gems with me, your host, Natasha Parker. We have lots to get into and to talk about today. I have listened to you guys. I've gotten your DMs and your messages about the femininity episode that I did with Serena Kerrigan. And people are like, okay, girl, help. What are we doing? How we do this? And I just want to give you guys basically my overview of how to kind of go on this journey if you're feeling like your femininity and your masculinity is a little out of whack, out of balance. So the overview of this episode is like the hardworking woman, femininity, love, and relationships. So as a hardworking woman and someone who worked in corporate and worked with a lot of men, a lot of industries are dominated by men, as we know. And you're a woman, you're a boss lady, you're a badass, you're doing your thing, and you have to work in a certain way and be in a certain place. It's your job to be direct. It's your job to be specific. It's your job to be, just on the pulse, right? You can't just willy-nilly walk around a meeting and be like, well, maybe we should do this and maybe we should do that, and be like indecisive. Being decisive is a part of the job and doing your job well. So I understand that. I get that. I receive that. And sometimes it's hard to leave work, come home, turn that off, go on a date, hang out with, whoever or whatever you're doing in your love life or you're in a relationship, to just turn that off. And I want to take a moment to recognize for men, they wake up every day as themselves and they go into the world as themselves. They don't put the makeup on. They don't have to worry about doing the hair as much. And obviously I'm speaking in general, but they just wake up and they exist. And that is if they are existing in their masculine, existing in their feminine, whatever, they are doing that. They don't have to switch on or off, because they are a man. Because when a man says something direct, everyone listens. But when a man says something indirectly, people also listen because they are a man. This is not a man-hating podcast. We love men on this podcast because we love men. But we love secure men. We love smart men. We love masculine men too. So I'm not trying to bash the men. I'm just giving an example of how it may seem like, why as a woman I have to do this. And it was funny, I was on a date with a guy and he was like, being a woman sounds exhausting because we do have to put on a makeup and put on a face and do this and do that and act this way, and then when we come home turn it off and then turn it on, and that can sound exhausting. But I told him, I said, I love that I have embraced the fact that I adapt, that I can adapt, that I will adapt, and it is a part of me. I want to be able to wake up and put makeup on and feel so beautiful, because that's how I feel when I put my makeup on. I want to be able to put my sweats on or go for a run and go into an office and tell 10 men exactly what to do. I want to do that too. And I love that I can do that as well, but also come home and be the most feminine, amazing woman to the man that I am with at the time. So I personally have accepted it. And I accept that as women, we adapt. That is like a part of our anatomy, I think. And it's a part of what makes women women. All right. Now, as we go further into this episode, I guess I should give a disclaimer. Everything that I say in this episode, you 100% can disagree with me. Agree to disagree or whatever. This is a very specific episode, I think, for a specific type of woman who is looking to realign with her femininity. And this is no shade to feminists. I do think that women are well equipped to do any and everything a man can do. But in your relationship with your man, you have to decide what energy you want to bring to the table. And these are all decisions, because we get the same amount of chromosomes from our dad as we do our mom. And we wake up every single day and we make a choice of how we're going to respond and be in the world. And that's a choice. That's for any single type of person. And that is, anyone that is a part of the LGBTQ community, the he, she, they, same. There is no right or wrong. It's all about how you want to show up as a human in your day-to-day life. So with that said, for my hardworking women who have to turn on the masculine for your work, but you want to turn it off or realign and rebalance with your femininity, hey boos, here we go. The first thing that we learn with feminine and masculinity, and also if you haven't listened to the femininity episode that I did with Serena Kerrigan, please go listen to it because I love it. And a lot of people have given me a lot of great feedback about that episode. So this is just a deeper dive if you have already listened to it. So number one, how we respond to things, that is the biggest difference between feminine and masculine. So for instance, if I say, I think it's super important to point out when you go on your femininity journey or when you're trying to realign with your femininity, it's more of an embodiment. So yes, it's how we respond, but you have to be thinking about this in every aspect of your life. So you can't just say like, oh, I'm going to be feminine at home, but then be masculine at work. Well, you can do that, but the switch that you have to take may look a little different. So maybe that's you after work going to a yoga class or going to a pole dancing class or something that you can get out of your mind and into your body, because being a feminine woman, you are in your body. And what I mean by in your body, you're in your feels, you're in your feelings. It's not about what I think is best. It's about how I feel and expressing how you feel to the person that you are with. And obviously, in a work environment, you're not just like, I feel this, I feel that, blah, 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 blah. So you want to be more direct and precise. So when you come home, it's all about getting in your feels. So I do recommend, going and doing some sort of physical activity that gets you more in your body, not like going and lifting weights because, you're exerting that energy. It's more so like doing yoga, going to a ballet class, or doing something that invokes that femininity. So learning how to effectively communicate how you feel is something that has really helped me with my relationships. There was a time when I was with a girlfriend and she asked me a question and I just blurted out an answer really fast. And she was like, you don't have to always say something right away. You don't always have to have an answer. You don't always have to respond. And I'm like, I'm a producer. I have to always have an answer, always have to respond. What do you mean? We have to have a plan A, B, C, D. What are you talking about? That was my mindset and that was my response to her. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, she's so right. I don't need to respond right away. And learning to tell someone, hey, thank you for your sentiments. I need a moment to think about this, digest it, process it, whatever it is, and then I'll give you my answer. That has become such a great way of communicating for me, so I can really think about what I want to say and say it in the most loving and affectionate way, even if it's constructive criticism, even if it's something that is not great. Because I will say, when I do respond right away, especially if it's something that does not make me happy or it's something that could be potentially a conflict, I get really reactionary and it's like, and almost 9 times out of 10 after I do that, I'm like, damn, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have did that. So a part of going on this feminine journey is learning to say, I don't have to give an answer right now at this moment. I can take my time and really digest and feel how I feel and think about how I feel and then communicate how I'm feeling versus just what I think about a situation. Because what I think in the moment probably is this person's being a jerk or an asshole or this or that or whatever, or like, why aren't they agreeing with me if I'm not getting my way? But when I sit back and I think about what I feel, it's a completely different response. All right. So learning how to effectively communicate. Also, this thing can't be an act. We can't act feminine. Femininity doesn't have a look to it. It doesn't have a sound to it. We can't just be like, oh, now I'm feminine. Listen to my voice. No. It's like I said, it's an embodiment, and we actually have to change how we do things. And what that changes, like I said, it's how we respond. It's how we communicate what we're feeling versus what we're thinking, if that makes sense. And we can change, and we have the power to. And I'm telling you this, I was a different type of person when I was operating in my masculine, I would say 75% of the time, opposed to now that is fully swapped, where I'm like 75, maybe even 80%, way more feminine and way more relaxed and way more in flow. And what does that mean? I just go with the flow. And how can I go with the flow? How can I be so chill? How can I do these things? Because there's also a level of work that you have to do on yourself that we talk about on this podcast. This whole podcast is about getting unstuck and doing work on yourself and going within and figuring out what it is. So when you get to a point of trust, like I really, truly trust that what I want exists, I don't have these outlandish wishes for myself. But also, even if you do have outlandish wishes for yourself, go off, queen. Like do what you need to do to get those things. But it's very simple. The more masculine of a man that you want, the more feminine you have to be. So being in flow and knowing that I trust that the person who I am becoming and the person who I am now versus who I was feels so much better. It feels so much better to just be like, well, I don't know what to do. You got to figure it out. And trusting that I'm going to find a partner who I do trust his vision to figure it out. That's half the battle. Sometimes we're in relationships with people, and the truth is, and the problem is, the reason why we're so stuck in our masculine with a man is because we actually don't trust this man. I'll go on a date with a guy, and he doesn't know his right foot from his left foot. And I'm like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. I don't care how hot you are. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care about any of that. If I don't feel like you have like a plan and like it's specific and you know what you're doing, I can't date you, because I have a plan for myself and I know what I'm doing for myself. So if I'm gonna be this feminine energy in your life and you're gonna be the masculine energy in my life, I have to trust that you have this vision for us. And sometimes we date people and we don't trust their vision. And if you're in a relationship with someone and you don't fully trust their vision, maybe you're operating in your masculine energy for that reason. And that's okay. So now I'm going to get into some tools, some tips, tricks, and books that have really helped me. And like I said in the beginning of the podcast, my disclaimer, you don't have to agree with everything in these books and or tips and tricks, but these pivotal things I read, and I study things. When I want to do something or when I want to change or when I want to invoke change in myself, I study it. I become like, oh, I got to know this. I got to go know this. So I went on a deep dive with a lot of different books. Like I said, you don't have to agree with everything. So there's a few books, a few tips and tricks that I learned along the way that really helped me and really opened my eyes to just being more feminine. So I did this silent weekend. It's like a meditation retreat silent weekend once. I turned my phone off for the weekend. I downloaded this audiobook, and if you're a person who likes to read books, that's great. You can do that too. But this particular book, I recommend audio because there's a lot of meditation prompts in it, and you can just put it on and listen to the meditations. This book is called Awakening Shakti by Sally Kempton. I think that this book is a game changer. It's all about goddesses and the different myths and stories with goddesses. And Sally Kempton goes through all these goddesses, like so many different goddesses. And you're going to hear her speak about certain goddesses and you're like, oh yeah, that's me. And you really resonate with them. And then you're going to hear her speak about goddesses and you're like, oh no, that's not me at all. And then you're going to hear her speak about goddesses and be like, oh, I wish that was like that. And the ones that I said I wish I was more alike, I studied those chapters. And what I realized from listening to all the different myths about all the different goddesses is, as women, I was talking about adapting before, we can adapt into any and everything. Obviously, we have to feel comfortable enough to think that it's attainable and think that we can actually do it. But there's a goddess called Lakshmi. And the Lakshmi chapter I've listened to probably the most because she is just everything to me. And she's someone who I really wanted to embody. And there's some other goddesses, Kali and Poverty, like that are more, they're strong, you know? And I also see myself in these goddesses as well. So I want to play a snippet from Awakening Shakti for you because, like I said, there's a lot of different meditation prompts in it, and you can meditate on the goddesses. And if this is not your cup of tea, I totally get it, boo. But this book changed my life. I did a silent weekend. I listened to the whole entire book. I called my family. I was like, hey, I am not going to be on my phone this weekend. I'm just staying home with me and Isla. We're chilling. But I'm doing like a silent meditation thing for myself. I did not speak a word. I only listened to this book and meditated. And this was during the like 2021. So it was still pandemic-ish outside. And a friend of mine had a birthday, and it was like 30 of us. And so it was, I mean, small for a birthday, but everyone kind of had to get checked and make sure everyone was okay. And some guy friends of mine were there at the birthday that I've been friends with for years. And they're like, wait a minute, something's different about you. So what's going on? What's this energy you got going on? And I just came off this weekend and I was like, it's the goddess energy. It's the goddess energy. It's the goddess energy. And so now even like if I go somewhere or like if I see a cute boy or something, I'm always like, goddess energy, goddess energy, goddess energy. And I'll like turn it on, you know, because we can embody anything that we want. And I truly believe that. And so when you guys listen to the book, you will get what I'm talking about with the goddess energy. But I'm going to play this little snippet so we can talk about it.
But it is Lakshmi who gives him the power to do this. And when she disappears from the worlds, even Vishnu can't keep things going. He looks deeply into his vast awareness to discover the explanation. And he finds the moment when Indra, in his pride, insulted the goddess. Knowing Lakshmi, he realizes what happened. Lakshmi is not a goddess to roar, or to complain, or to draw a sword. But she does not stay where there is pride or harshness. When she is displeased, she simply leaves. And with her goes everything that makes life sweet. Vishnu, who has presided over many turns of the cosmic wheel, recognizes the symptoms of Lakshmi's departure.
We get into things where we feel like we have to explain ourselves. We have to say, but you don't get it, you don't know. As I've been doing this work on myself and becoming more of my feminine energy, she said, she doesn't deal with pride and ego. Lakshmi doesn't deal with that. When you feel that someone is disrespecting you or being disrespectful, when you come into a space in your feminine energy, in your lightness, in your flowness, in your happiness, when you leave, your presence is, the void of your presence, I should say, is felt. And that's the type of power that we're talking about. By no means is masculine more powerful and feminine is less powerful, or masculine or vice versa. It's like there's a beauty and a power in both. And the beauty and the power that I've realized from being feminine and operating in your femininity is the trust and the knowing that I don't have to hoot and holler to get what I want, because I just get what I want no matter what. And if this room or this space or this person isn't allowing me to be my most authentic self or my happiest self or my most feminine self, I can go and find a room that will and that can. And I just remember fighting people and like being in relationships and fighting for myself to be understood. And then I started doing this work and I'm like, you know, if you don't want to take the time to understand who I am or what I am, then this is not, then what are we doing here? There is no force that needs to be happening. The force turned into flow And then I started flowing. And then the men in my life who wanted me to be more masculine kind of just fell off because they wanted that friction. They were always looking for that friction that I gave them, not gonna lie, for a while. But then I was like, yeah, no, not gonna, don't wanna. And there'll be times where people will say things to me, men will say things to me, and I'm like, and then I'm like, that's okay. I don't want to go on the date. I'm going to stay home instead. And that's it. That's all. No explanation needed. I don't need to tell you anything. And that, because I just don't feel like I can show up and be taken care of in my feminine. So I'll leave you there. Now, next, really great book, Getting to I Do by Patricia Allen. Getting to I Do by Patricia Allen is, some people say there's a lot of Reddits about it. It's a very dated book. And although I don't believe every single thing that she says in the book, there are a few chapters in the book that did something to me. There's a quiz in Patricia Allen's book called Are You the Woman You Think You Are? I highly, highly recommend you guys take this quiz because the quiz, she asks you multiple choice questions. There's A, B, and C. And in the book, she says, depending on what you answer, each question is individualized. Either you have a masculine energy or a feminine energy or a narcissistic energy. And how she explains the narcissistic energy is if you are thinking, if you're responding to someone in your mind and feeling, then that's a narcissistic trait. And this is what she says. So if you're responding in how you feel, that's a feminine trait. If you're responding in what you think, then that's a masculine trait. So when you do the quiz in the book, I'm pretty sure you can find it online too, Getting to I Do quiz. And you really, every single question, majority of them I answered feminine, but some of them I didn't. I answered masculine, and it's just real. And she says, if you answered masculine, you have to look at yourself and see what it is in yourself that you want to respond in that way and what that means. And I was like, yeah, we and then you choose to work on it or not. And like I said, there's a percentage thing. No one's saying you have to be 100% feminine all the time in every way and everything in every which way of life. No one's saying that. But there's a choice, and we have choices. So I highly recommend doing that quiz. I wish I could play the whole thing for you and you can just listen to it on this podcast, or I could read it to you myself, but we don't. But in this book, it was so great because she talks about what masculine men want from feminine women. She talks about finding your prince. She talks about how to flirt. Like, I don't know about you guys, but this chapter, the how to flirt chapter was very important for me because I would go out, I would see a guy, and I'd be like, I would look at him, I would look back, I would look at him, I would look back, and then I wouldn't. And then I had to learn how to actually look at him, smile, be cheeky, maybe do a little shoulder shrug or something, give him the green light. I had to learn how to do that because although women, if you're a beautiful woman and a man thinks you're beautiful, he thinks, men think you're just, he's a dime a dozen. There's a million guys trying to talk to you. They don't know if you're single. They don't know what the deal is. They don't know that you even like them. And so giving a green light is your feminine way to say, come on over, honey. And I think that that's great. And I said this in another episode, and I'm going to say it again because I live by it. And if you feel like there's like a big group of people and maybe he's not noticing you or understanding that you're into him, go up to him and say, hey, have we met before? We have, right? Oh, we haven't? Oh, well, nice to meet you. I'm Natasha. And that energy, because if he's married, if he's this, if he's that, he'll just you'll get the energy of him like being standoffish, or you'll get the energy of him like not leaning in. But if he leans in and goes, oh, well, hello, I'm Michael. Great. Fantastic. All right. The next book is The Wild Woman's Way by Michaela Boehm. This book is also very good, and she talks about your full potential for pleasure, power, and fulfillment. Again, all these books are about empowering us women to be in flow, if that makes sense. So her journey is really great. I also recommend that book. And then this book, I have the hard copy of this one, and I do recommend the hard copy of this book, Women Who Run with Wolves by Clarissa Piccola Estes. There's an excerpt on the book where she says, within every woman, there lives a powerful force filled with good instincts, passionate creativity, and ageless knowing. This whole book is all about your instincts and trusting your instincts and feeling your instincts. And that also goes with femininity in so much, in such a big way, because instinctually, I think women have something innate in us that we know when we feel unsafe. Like, I have actual body responses. I'll get a text message. I don't know, like, I'll get a text message from someone and I'll see something very hurtful and I'll feel it in my body. I'm like, what? That body response, that is your body telling you something's off. It's just like, walking down a dark alley. They say don't do that. Well, if you ever walked down a dark alley by yourself, you're looking left, right, side, because you know that like anything could happen and I feel unsafe. And this book talks all about safety and instincts and trusting it. And there's so many things in the world that tell us not to trust our instincts, to go against our instincts. And when you really practice and hone in on that for yourself, it adds to that trust that I was saying before. You learn how to trust yourself and trust your body, trust your instinct, trust your feelings, versus this is what I think. It's like, oh, no one's in the alley right now, so I can walk down it because I am going to cut, 30 seconds instead of walking around the other way. I see and I think that everything's fine, but there's a part of you that knows I should probably walk the extra 30 seconds because that's going to be safer for me. And feeling and going with that feeling versus the actual logic of like, well, no one's in the alley. I can see no one's down there, right? So that's just another part. And you can put that in any aspect of life. It's like, oh, I'm dating this guy and I know on paper he's great, he's this, he's that, but there's just something that I feel that isn't quite right. Now, there's so many layers to that because that feeling can be so many different trauma responses that you haven't worked through. That's why it's really important to work through our trauma and work through our relationship biases that we have from past relationships. I'm not a therapist, but listen to my first episode with Britt Frank or my episode with Jenny Minen where we talk about this. And it's super important to know that because once you have that armor and you know that I'm not this crazy person and I can trust my feelings, when you do feel that something's off, it probably is, babe. It probably is. And sometimes the off is you and sometimes it's the guy. So next book is The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. This book is about men. And I think every woman should read this book because it kind of talks about how a real man should act and be and treat you and how you should feel. And when you read this book, you're like, oh yeah, definitely. I feel my best when a man is operating in this way or this way or this way. So I highly recommend The Way of a Superior Man by David Dita. So you can get that scope of like how men should be. And I went and saved the best for last. Something that I did, so similar to my silent weekend, I listened to the Bible. I listened to the book of Ruth and the Song of Solomon. I would listen to the Song of Solomon when I would go to bed and I would meditate to it. It's it's some of the most beautiful literature I've ever heard in my whole entire life. And that book embodies love to me. And then when you read about Ruth and Boaz, it's something, they're two very iconic Bible couple. But in the Bible, when they say that Ruth lays at her man's feet, I said, oh, you want to meet someone that, obviously metaphorically, I don't know that you really have to lay at a man's feet, but metaphorically, someone that you love so much that you would, or that you trust their vision so much that you would. And again, I don't know what's going to resonate with you as a person listening to this. And maybe hearing Shiva and Shakti and goddesses is against what you believe, or maybe you don't believe in the Bible. But these are a collection of things that have really helped me get through to my feminine side and to my femininity, along with, they say feminine, you receive, you're open to receiving. When you're masculine, you're giving. And a giving man is a very masculine man. And your gift to that man is the option to receive and happily receive. And it makes me so happy to know that I can now be like that. And I can now, respond in that way to people who I date. So what does that look like for everyone? Well, that just looks like being open. And if you are in a spot right now where you're like, kind of over dating, kind of over what's happening and men and, that people say all the time, well, there's a lot of feminine men out here. There are still a lot of masculine men out here too. And if you are feeling a little overwhelmed, maybe just take this time to study and hone in on yourself and embody who you really want to be, and sit with yourself and meditate with yourself and pray for yourself and work on trusting and knowing what it is you really want. Because what you really want is coming to you no matter what. What you focus on, like I said in the law of attraction in my manifesting episode, what you focus on is what you're attracting into your life. That is it. That is all. And I hope you guys got some gems. And I hope you guys read these books. And I hope you guys message me about them and tell me your favorite parts and things like that. Because I truly, these are gifts. These are gifts that I'm giving you, and my gems that I'm giving you, because all in their own individual way have changed my life. But it's homework. It's homework, booze. So, my little gemmers out there, go do your homework if you're feeling like you need some femme energy in your life. And I will be here next week to give more gems about it all with everyone. And let me know what you think. Until next week, my little gems, I'll see you next time. Mwah. Thanks for listening to Hidden Gems with me, your host, Natasha Parker. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps grow our budding community. Follow me on IG at Natasha Parker and the show at Gems with Natasha. Hidden Gems with Natasha Parker is produced by Gotham Production Studios.